Hello world, I'm Leslie. Let's talk again about GDE adventures. Now I have a special guest. Gant is with us. He is a fellow GDE Google Developer Expert in machine learning, and he's gonna tell us about his experience in machine learning, a little bit about himself, and we're gonna enjoy this chat, learning about technologies and a dev life. And yeah, Gant, how are you? I'm super happy to be that you are here.
Thank you so much. It's fantastic to be here. It's great to talk to other people, especially during a pandemic.
Indeed.
I'm so used to going to conferences and speaking at different events, and it's a little bit lonely this year. And
Mm.
can't wait for everything to open back up so that I can actually go meet people in person. But until then, I guess virtual will just have to do.
Yeah, it can work in the meanwhile. But yeah, tell us a little about yourself. What do you do? What are your hobbies?
Yes, absolutely. So, I live in a wonderful city in New Orleans, a city in the US called New Orleans, and it's a very non-technical city. Growing up, it was very hard being a nerd here.
Oh, really?
It was a lonely, lonely road for a while, but I got a computer science degree here in the States for computer science and just working in that field for a long time, doing a lot of web work, doing lots of cool websites and cool stuff like that. But I'm so old that back when I was getting my college degree, AI and machine learning just weren't really. It was during the AI winter, sort of the end of AI winter,
Oh, wow.
and so most of the stuff that was out in AI was just hard coded if statements and the minimax algorithms for like board games and such like that. It wasn't really anything exciting or data driven for a while. So I have a very circuitous path to AI, and the fact that I coded websites and cool stuff and building all kinds of other things outside of AI. Like anytime something kind of came into AI, I was like, I made a game back in 2002 for
Mhm.
free. It was just like an open source back when open source was really hard to do. But I made a game, and then it's difficult because the game meant two people had to sit at the same computer to play against each other. And so I was like, okay, it's time to add AI. And so I started researching, and I said, you know what? No, I'm building a server where people can actually connect in and play against each other. That was infinitely more desirable and fun and interactive, where people could like join a game against each other and have this sort of client server architecture. Because just the sort of research and the planning around AI was so difficult. And then
Mm.
I have seen just avoiding it. And then, sure enough, as it sort of creeped into the world around me, now it's like, okay, that's cool. Oh, all right. Now it's actually doing something I like. Wait, it can do that. It could do that. And then finally, it just came in and grabbed me and said, Gant, it's time for you to get involved with machine learning. And I was like, all right, I'm in. And of course, I jumped in the worst way possible. I went straight to reliving all my linear algebra
Oh
and
man,
coding
the
everything from
hardest part.
scratch. Yeah.
It's so fun when people get excited for machine learning, when thinking about robots and like
Yeah.
games, and then you start doing like linear algebra and calculus, and it's like,
Yes.
okay.
Like, oh no, okay, let me get into my derivatives again and just kind of and doing all that was fantastic because,
Mhm.
like I did get an academic education back in early graduating in 2004 and just not touching my linear algebra textbooks for, a decade. And then coming back to it and saying like, oh, all this stuff actually did have excellent application outside of with the reason I actually was able to graduate is because I had to take all that knowledge and apply it directly to 3D. I was like, oh, this applies to
Oh.
3D. This applies to 3D. This applies to graphics, and there's a
Mhm.
reason why I need to know this. But now people have a second answer on like the same reason why the GPU is so useful for us. Now you can apply it to machine learning and you can apply it to 3D. So I'm pretty excited
Exciting.
about.
Yeah, and I want to know a little bit more about
Mhm.
your starting in the sense like
Yeah,
why you chose working with computers. I don't know how long have you been living in New Orleans. It just
yeah.
sounds to me like jazz and music around. Uh,
Oh, and that is one of the biggest problems that we have here is that our engineering and style is like it's very French and it's just wonderful. We have events every weekend. It's a wonderful place to live, but being a nerd here was pretty hard.
I can imagine.
Yeah, there's not that much. My graduating class was two people, me
Really?
and Tang graduated in 2004. He left and worked for NASA.
Mhm.
And I said, I want to stay in New Orleans, which was really difficult up until just this remote work revolution started happening. It made my life so much better because,
Mm.
you can be the best developer in New Orleans, but like now I can work for companies in California and work for all these other different stuff. So that's what connected me to a bunch of other fantastic people. Actually, our company Infinite Red has wonderful people. Todd, who was in California at the time, and Jamin, who's in Portland at the time, and me in New Orleans, and we all get connected and have this company where honestly, I fly out and see them 4 times a year or 5 times a year in person, but almost every day I see them in a video call like this. So
So it's
I'm
exciting
super
in a
happy about
way.
that. Yeah, it was hard though because um, you know you've got to be driven by just exciting cool technology, and I'd say
Mhm.
like I am flavored by that flair, that New Orleans sort of style, so it has helped me out a great bit. But you know it's hard to get people to sit down and talk about generative adversarial networks over here.
I can imagine. Yeah, they might be chatting about something else. And you, oh,
Yeah.
guys, have you seen the last application of GANs? Like, what are you thinking? Yeah, so funny. But
Yeah.
also, tell us a little bit more about GDE program, how you get to know it, how you apply it, how you like it so far.
Well, I love the GD program. I first found out about it when a friend of mine who lived here in New Orleans moved away to join Google. And
Oh,
she, we lose a lot of really great people, but kind of found out about that program. And then I would go speak at conferences and I would meet GDEs and I would say, like, oh, that's really cool. And they're like, yeah, well, we have a group of experts. We have internal access to what's going on inside of a Google. And then we also get sort of like these benefits of being sent to specific conferences and such. And so that was like one of the cool things that they get is like they're going to these different conferences. I was like, all right, I've met 5 or 6 GDEs at conferences while speaking. I was like, I think this is something I want to get involved with. And I'm really happy
cool.
I have. Yeah.
Yeah. And about your company, you mentioned Infinite Red. How do you start it? How was the
Oh my
experience
goodness.
to launch it?
Yeah, InfraRed's been fantastic. What I first started with was our CEO Todd. He's our visionary. He's our glue. He recontextualizes what work should be. And working here in New Orleans, I was working for like local companies and stuff. And one of the things that we had was people didn't have like the right kind of big picture ideas, and then Todd did, and he started like pulling together talent. So he was like,
Wow.
all right, you from over here, like let's get all these people together. And it's been fantastic. So I'm happy to say that I'm one of the 3 owners of the company, and we
Cool.
really kind of owe this sort of like large connection to our CEO Todd Worth and the amazing talents of the people that he's kind of pulled in from all over the world. We're almost exclusively U.S. and Canada now because we
Mhm.
like everybody to be close and friendly and interactive. But one of the key things he did was Jamin Holmgren, who's the other owner, had his own startup, and it was like a local office. He had talent. He had like really cool people. And so when Todd and him met, he's like, let's move it virtual. Let's give people like this freedom. Let's merge these companies. And it gives me like that sort of like um, commanding freedom is like why I get to create these fun projects, why I get to sort of like go out to these conferences, and why we get business from people all around the world is because we really do want to connect with people on this very like centered, human based first like mentality, which I think is really important in technology.
Yeah, yeah, very important indeed. I feel like sometimes since we are very techy or like
Hmm.
engineering people, sometimes we forget about this fact. And then we
Yeah.
realize that, oh man, yeah, but we are humans too. And I kind of feel like this pandemia has also revealed that, like,
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
working on my computer, and then I go to a conference, and then
Hmm.
I teach in a workshop, I stay with a lot of people, but now it's like, man, I'm doing everything on the computer. So,
Yeah, there's a fatigue. There's just this
yeah.
tiredness of like not being able to see your audience. Like what we're talking right now. I love that I get to actually see your face. I get to like hear, like if you laugh at something, you interact with something, it really connects people together. And that's missing so much from this 2020 pandemic version of conferences or
Yeah.
meetups. It's not even close to the same. And if anything, it just reinforces how much, you know,
Mhm.
to make this interconnectivity work, we have to stay as human as possible for sure.
Yeah, totally. And recently, some years ago, actually, I read about this project, People Plus AI Research from Google AI. They have been focusing a
Hmm.
lot on designing for humans, AI powered products.
Yeah.
And I found it super cool because, as I mentioned, sometimes we kind of forget it. But anyway, so
Hmm.
what advice would you give to somebody that want to start in the AI world, machine learning?
I'd say like the most important thing to do is to start figuring out what the pieces are. So the terminology and the big pieces. What are GANs? What is a model? Like how does that actually tie in? What is working with clean data versus working with data in the wild like? And then just get your fingers underneath these things. Once you've got your fingers underneath them, or what I like to call bookending a subject, which is like you can put a bookend on either side and all the content is somehow inside this domain, right? You know where it starts and where it ends. Once you have the bookends and you've got like a grasp of that, inside of that domain, come up with your passion, because
Mm.
that's so important, because the finish line of a passion makes the journey possible, and you can enjoy the journey for sure, but you got to know where you're going. Activity without like a direction is useless. You can have tons of achievement and feel like you've achieved nothing if it's not all building up to something. So find out what the passion is, come up with an idea, come up with a project, come up with something that really makes you interested, and then you go after it. So if you're like, hey, I would like to do, I've learned about reinforcement learning, and now I really want something to come in here and play tic tac toe. That's great. If you want something to play Rocket League, well, then you've got like a whole new mission. Like those aren't even close to the same sort of mission, even though they're in the same subdomain, but you will figure out all the pieces along the way. So figure out what AI is, what it's doing, start seeing it around you, get your fingers on it, and then inside of there, find something no one else has done, or that you can make your own, that's your passion project, and then just figure out every single piece along getting that path. And that cross-cutting action, you'll be able to solve. You'll be able to sit through hours of linear algebra. You'll be able to read a bunch of papers published by people, because they kind of give you half the information that you need here and half the information that you need there. They'll get you through the hard parts, is that you'll care. If I just put, a 50-pound bag of sand on your back and I say walk, you're you're not going to go that far before you're just going to be like, hey, I'm exhausted, I'm done. But if you're motivated, if there's a reason, if I say like, hey, this is a 50-pound bag of money, and if you can run 26 miles with it, you can keep it. Like, okay, well, that's good. Or what if it's a person you care about and you're running to a hospital? You'll run forever. It's motivation.
Yes.
And without that motivation, it just feels like carrying around sand. This is so much more important. So once you've got it, find your passion project and then build it.
Yeah, totally. Because we can be learning, doing small projects and workshops, and then it's like,
Hmm.
okay, so what else is going on? And one
Yeah.
more
Why am I
question.
going to use it? Right.
Yeah,
It's
like what is
important.
it for? And
Right.
one more question about teaching learning. What advice would you give to people that are actually teaching about machine learning?
Ooh. I'd say for people who are teaching machine learning, one of the best things is giving people the aspects of what's out there. But here's a trick that I think most people don't do. Have cheat stages. And the cheat stage is this. So let's say I need to teach you, um, let's say we're just going with simple classification, right? If I'm
Okay.
doing a classification problem, I can basically talk for 4 hours about the very beginnings of just neural networks, or maybe it's even like a CNN. Maybe I'm talking about like convolutions for hours and like just kind of getting that concept. It can get very, very difficult. What you have to come in and do is you have to give a treat. You have to give a quick connection.
Mm,
So I think that that's hooking up MobileNet to something that's instantly accessible and then letting them identify things immediately, kind of getting like that little bit of dopamine hit that comes along the way. Give them a already trained model and then hooking that up and maybe doing computer vision really quick. That small bit really does recharge people for the next 4 hours that you're going to be talking about the next concept. And so I think that it's easy to get stuck in just theory, but it's super, super simple to just put these real easy and of course they're simple problems. Like you can, and maybe they're not something like you really need at any given moment, because but if you could do MobileNet for a second, or if you show people mask
mm,
detection right now during a pandemic or something like that, or it's just simple transfer learning, those little tidbits to give people really exciting examples as you're showing them the sort of like cleaning data or those really rote tasks that we have to worry about. Like, all right, now we're going to engineer features out of this data set. You have to have those treats along the way. As long as you have those treats and they actually are things that people are enjoying, it's unbelievable how long people can go. That's it's really cool when you're doing a workshop, as long as you have these little breaks. And I think people have icebreakers and breaks and stuff that like connect people. That same concept, but like academically, is just as useful. So I say,
yeah.
think of your candy moments along the way that make people say, "All right, I'm ready for the next 2 hours, 3 hours worth of like really difficult work, because we're gonna have something fun in a little bit."
Oh, wow. Amazing. Yeah. And as we were chatting before, I like to show when teaching, like those kind of examples, like the end
Yeah,
product. And it's really cool. People
yeah,
get excited how it works. And then you start motivating, right? You can learn
yeah,
how it works and you can build it yourself. So thank you so much again for
yeah.
the material you have on that, like public. I really enjoy it. I really use it actually with my students.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
So maybe just for finishing, tell us a little bit more about what you're doing at your job or what kind of
Hmm.
email projects you have and
Yeah.
where we can find you because I really enjoy. So I was saying about your material,
Hmm. Yeah.
about email and your projects and where we can
Yeah.
find more information about your projects.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I have a book coming out called Learning TensorFlow JS from O'Reilly. That's got some fun projects in it. I have a website which is gantlabord.com, which right now has a SSL error. Sorry, that should be fixed by the time anybody sees this. And and there's lots of really fun kind of concepts out there. One of the things I like to do is I have a newsletter where
Awesome.
I compile the fun things. So it's ai-fyi.com. So if you subscribe to ai-fyi.com, or if you have something you created that you want, like kind of that you feel is exciting and interesting, definitely send that to me, because that is the place where I'm putting all the cool stuff that we make, anything that's very interesting in that, and especially open source kinds of things where people can really like dig in there and see how it works and have fun with it. That's the website where I have most of that stuff. Now, we do have a lot of clients who will come to us and ask for one thing or another. Usually those are under NDA. So I can't
Yeah,
put those things out there. I
I
have some of them
understand.
in my talks, but that's the most I can get out of that. But the fun stuff that I can put, I definitely put in the newsletter.
Wonderful. And yeah, I like the idea to actually AI do it, like do it yourself, or like for your
Yeah.
information. It's
Right.
super
Yes.
cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we are also helping the community to learn
Hmm.
more about artificial intelligence. It's not something really new. It's not something
Right.
like
Right.
finished. So I think there is room for everyone to learn and to do
Hmm.
stuff. And yeah, to do great stuff, as you mentioned. And I really also enjoyed your vlogs. I was reading this last one about your 9 tips, I guess, for writing
Yes.
book.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah. Well, if I had a time machine, I could just hand myself those 9 things. It would be so much easier. But there it is. It's there for everybody else.
Amazing. And I was curious about the OReilly
Hmm.
cover book. Like
Yeah.
you wanted another reptile, but now you
Yes.
got the turtle.
Right. Yeah. I really do really appreciate some of the books out there. O'Reilly,
It's cool.
wow, they've taught me so much throughout my entire career, and I never understood how they got the animals on the cover anyway. But I just said, like, I know I can't have what I want. Just make sure it's a reptile, and they gave me a turtle, so that's what I get.
Wonderful. Looking forward to your book and your
Thanks.
projects. And of course, I'm sharing all your info in this description of the video. And thank you
Perfect.
so much again for your time, for sharing about your experience and your projects. Yeah, we'll see you around.
Thanks, Leslie. I'll see you around.
Thank you. Bye.